Hello everyone, I'm Navaji, the director and producer of the brand new ballet KOMOREBI, and today I am here with Dorothy O'Shea Overbey, one of the lead dancers in the production. Hi Dorothy, thank you for joining me today.
Hi Navaji, it's a pleasure to be here.
We're being very formal about this, not really. Well, I brought you on because I really wanted to take some time to talk about not only the production itself, but what it's been like for you as an artist to be involved. For me, it's been really special to be able to work with you in this sort of project. You know, I hold you in such high regard. You're a dear friend of mine and a brilliant artist. And so it's a real privilege to have you in this production.
It's not often that you get to be in a process like that with a dear friend. It is such a beautiful thing. It's almost overwhelming in its beauty. It's been wonderful.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think that it definitely shows. There have been moments where, you know, the tears just come up, you know, You well up a little bit. And one of the most endearing things about you as an artist and working with you is how much you bring to the table every day, every rehearsal, every moment, even if it's not for a show. And there's so muchness that supports your expression. And it's moving. It's moving to be able to play with that and dance with that.
Yeah, it's moving to me too. And you know, something that is very powerful for me is that I don't always feel as though I have permission to bring all of that. You know, to bring my full self, which is not to be negative in any way, you know, but again, like, I think our relationship and the profundity of the subject matter of this ballet has created this beautiful vessel. And I feel that I can bring the entirety of myself, all of myself, the levels of them, mentally and psychologically and spiritually, and of course, physically. And there's space for that. And there's a safe container for that. And that's really important. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad that you feel that safety.
Yeah.
You play a master in the ballet KOMOREBI, which the three generations in KOMOREBI are the initiates, the guardians, and the masters. And those display different levels of reverence to the world around them, to the people around them, and to the things that are greater than them. And I feel like that's already so much a part of how you see the world and get involved and also create your own productions and your own works, that it seemed just so fitting, and it kind of wrote itself in a way, because, you know, I didn't have to take something so alien to who you are, really. It was just leaning into something that you already do so well. And that's been also a pleasure.
See that welling up thing is happening? No, yes, and that's the thing which has been so beautiful about this is, or one of the things that's been so beautiful about this is to be seen.
Yeah.
To have someone see you and give you a platform to bring everything. Something that has been actually already, even though we've just gotten started, I feel, something that has been very powerful about this ballet is the way that it's influenced my own spiritual practice and my own spiritual journey. And I think that many people, I think in theatrical arts and performing arts would, I think, understand this idea that when you're embodying a part, right, that there are, not just that character, that ego, that being, that being informs you, that being, it speaks to you.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I feel as though us working together in relationship and all of these ideas that you've cultivated have created, of course it's created an egregore, of course it's already created a whole new world, a whole new universe in and of itself with the cast. But it's created this structure for this being to speak to me. And that is something that has just been incredibly powerful already. And you know what it does? It holds me accountable.
In what way?
Well, it takes me to task because of course, you know, we as all artists, you know, we've spent our lives on this journey.
Yeah, we have.
We have, and this journey is a lot, you know, and there is no hiding. And there, you know, you choose this path, or it chooses you, however it is, and there's no hiding from it. Here we are.
Yeah.
And what it takes you through, of course, the most beautiful initiation, the most beautiful trials by fire, and all of the pain and the difficulty, but the discipline and the joy and the power and the potency, all these things. I mean, there's this massive journey of initiation that all artists who are committed to their art form go through. And so with KOMOREBI, you've created this beautiful container so that I can listen to who I really am, and I can be all of it.
Yes.
And it holds me to task, because most of the time I actually am wiser than I know. I know more than I think I do. I have less fear than I feel like I have. You know?
Yeah.
I actually have more strength than I think, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think that this just gives me the opportunity to find it, but also just reminds me, that's why I love it. Above all of this, it's a ballet. It's a ballet.
Yes,
and yes, it is. And that is what is brilliant, right? Because this is the ballet, and the show must go on, and you must, and this is something that we must be true to. And so it calls me, and it calls me to my highest self.
That feels so wonderful to hear, because it's really in the recipe of KOMOREBI. And KOMOREBI is sort of meant to not just be a show, but a process, a journey. And one of the things that's very close to my heart is what I'm offering the dancers, what I'm offering the artists. And I think as artists, we often look for those moments that make us larger than we've been able to be, or take us further than we've gone, or push our boundaries, and we find new colors, or we saturate the ones we have, and we express in newfound ways and rediscover ourselves time and time again. And KOMOREBI, I want it to be a process that gently brings you in, but then really calls you home.
This rehearsal process has been very profound. All rehearsal processes are, but this one especially. Because of the methodology, I am even more invited to full presence in the moment. I'm even more invited to stretch out with my perception, with different means and modes of perception in different ways. I am more invited to bring multiple layers of myself into my physicality. I think that is something that dancers do a lot, but because there is a methodology behind it, and because the story behind it and the principles behind it are so clear, it's really created a wonderful structure for me to bring different levels of myself 10 times more powerfully than I ordinarily would. Yeah, I've really got that permission. It's a muscle. It's a wonderful muscle to flex. Yeah, it's a muscle to flex, and I feel as though, maybe with just the world and its insanity in recent years and everything, I feel like I haven't had a chance to do that in a while. And the amount that it stretches me feels fantastic. That feeling of unfamiliarity, right? Yeah. You sense something and you go after it, but you're not completely sure of it quite yet, but you know that something is there. Yeah. And I can do that physically. I've been able to integrate the imagination into the physical rehearsal process so much more powerfully than I often get the chance to.
Yeah, and I can really see that. I can see that and I can sense that. And it's so nice because you are so sensitive, and not sensitive just as somebody who's in touch with their emotions, but in your sensing, in the sensing of subtle things around you, subtle shifts, the energy of a space. And when you are invited and supported to show up and be fully present, which I think a lot of us avoid sometimes because our environments are not able to really support that. They're too aggressive. They're too aggressive to really allow the relax, expand, and move your consciousness way beyond your physical body. Move your consciousness out. Why would you do that in an environment that's so aggressive and maybe even oppressive and squeezes you in? And so I'm glad it feels like you have that and that you're able to strengthen that.
Yeah. Well, and that's another really beautiful thing is that this rehearsal process that you've created the structure for and that we're all participating in, it's a microcosm of the macrocosm of what the world should be.
Yeah.
Right? Of switching from this paradigm of being an authority figure who uses fear in order to inspire hard work to one who creates the freedom to live on that knife's edge of your potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It is just so beautiful and wonderful to be a part of that process, because I think that when we're a part of the process, we believe that this is possible in the world, and therefore we project it and we expand it.
I love that, because it also speaks to the idea of community, which I call the second level of reverence, especially in the ballet. So the 3 levels of reverence are to the self and self-preservation and knowing thyself. And then the second level of reverence is your community and the people around you and your environment. And the third is something so much greater than that, something that's for the greater good, maybe beyond yourself. Or if you want to think large, it could be the cosmos, the universe, God. It can be whatever that larger thing is. And so I love that what you touched on speaks to that second level of knowing that you have a community and a space around you. And when you place your awareness there, you fall into an attitude of gratitude. And I think it just changes the quality of how we live, how we breathe, and how we move. And all of a sudden, there are things that have been lodged somewhere and have rigidified, and this is for everyone. We all somaticize things, but all of a sudden, the trauma response can dissipate.
That's beautiful. I love this concept of the idea of reverence. It is a word that's used often in many different contexts, but when I'm in the studio, I really find myself connecting to that a lot. That there's reverence for this process, reverence for this world that you created. There's reverence for you. There's reverence for the fellow dancers. There's also reverence for yourself.
Yes.
And that is rare. People talk about self-love, and that's a beautiful thing. For some reason, this idea of reverence just for existing, that's easier for me to connect with. So how did you develop the Atma Moves methodology, and what inspired you to incorporate it into the choreography and the storytelling of KOMOREBI?
The Atma Moves methodology came about after various injuries.
Yeah.
And after breaking my ankles, having reconstructive toe surgery, there was just so much that I needed to create care around and to reform my relationship with movement, because it came from ballet. And as much as ballet transformed my life, I mean, I had wonky legs. Very pigeon-toed, super turned in, everything was collapsing in, and I even had trouble walking. And so without ballet, I probably would have a harder physical ability in my life. But with that also comes a lot of the pressure of what it means to perform as a ballet dancer and look a certain way and move a certain way. And there's always someone taller and better and stronger. And so my relationship with myself was also needing to be readjusted. Yeah. And so between the injuries, the desire to know myself differently, and the inspiration from healing modalities that I had come into, like pranic healing. Yeah. And so the inspiration for Atma Moves was to find something that took the spiritual components of looking inward and healing with movement and blending them towards an intention of using movement in a protocol manner to address issues in our lives. And some of those issues aren't just physical ones, physical kinesthetic things that are rigidified in the body or just emotionally held somewhere. And so the methodology isn't necessarily to say that I've created something that's never been around, but to really aim towards something and create steps to help others aim there too and see where it goes.
See where it goes. And I have noticed, I am very appreciative of the methodology of ABBA moves already. Because for instance, the exercise that we do of the sweeping, you know, a dedicated piece of music for it, right? A dedicated rhythm, everything is created, you know, just so there's clearly an idea behind all of it. And I definitely feel that. We began in rehearsal, and we began with this ritual of sweeping off things that are not needed, things that are not authorized, things that are not welcome. I feel it. I feel it profoundly. And I think all the dancers, I know all the dancers do. Everyone really likes that word.
I'm glad, actually.
Everyone loves it.
You never know.
You never know.
I'm like, here's the thing, and it's kind of like cooking, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I made dinner.
Okay.
I don't know what everyone's favorite flavors are.
Well, yeah, everyone loves it. I love it. And it's true. It works. It works. It clears my field. It clears myself. It clears my body. Another thing which I've found, that I love so much, and is also very rare, is that my body always feels better after rehearsal than before. That's kind of mind-blowing. For people who are not professional dancers out there, that is mind-blowing. It's totally crazy, not normal. Yeah, it's really true. There is both a physically and a spiritually, psychologically, emotionally therapeutic element to this choreography even. And that's just stunning. It's wonderful.
A part of the personal challenge in this is I'm working with professionals. If they can feel good and love the process, then I know what I am creating and what I'm looking at and what I'm trying to guide towards. There's something there. And I don't have to try to make myself believe it. I can just try it. And if there's something qualitative and quantitative there, then it has the potential to be repeatable and teachable.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many things that I love. There's so many things that I connect to so deeply in your movement, in this movement. And one of the things that I love the most are the motions of reaching for the sun at the nadir, at the pitch darkness, right? At the time of maximum darkness, and the time where there appears to be despair, there appears to be no hope, there appears to be darkness, but to reach for it and not search for it, but know that it's there, and then draw it up through the body, right? And then distribute it, right? Right? Yes, and then magnify it. That's the right word. Magnify it.
Yeah.
I love that so much. A, because I swear I can feel it.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. I'm doing it. But B, because because it's what the world needs. It's what I need. And it's demonstrating this practice and this ritual of faith is not the right word, because it's knowing.
You can't believe something and know something at the same time.
And I love that moment in rehearsal too, when it was that chassé in the second arabesque, right? You know, and the reaching down with the heel of the left hand. I love that motion in rehearsal, in that moment when you said, you're not searching. You know it's there. You're just accessing, right? You're just connecting into it. And it had, again, just great significance for the whole rest of my being, because it is making a physical practice of realizing that I actually do know. There are some things that I know, right? And that I'm not used to doing that. I'm very accustomed. I have just, I'm sure so many of us, but just constant self-criticism and self-doubt, which is okay. That's completely fine. It keeps me honest in a whole lot of ways. But being able to embody this idea of there being an inner knowing that is there, and I just have to reach in and make contact with it. Yeah. That's beautiful. So Dorothy, in what ways do you feel the themes of this ballet have resonated with you personally? I'm at a transitional point in my life And it's a beautiful transition in which I'm recommitting to my life purpose. And so I think there's, for me, no better timing than this. And I believe so deeply that movement is life. We all know that, but that really is the case, even breath. And I have such a powerful experience of the discipline of dance, and the power of it, the transformative power of it, the initiation and the complete just transformation of your body and your mind and your psyche and your soul. It's been such an incredible journey of freedom for me. This is something that gives you agency and that gives you power. So I think it has been an incredible blessing to be a part of this process at this time in my life, to reconnect with experience and with wisdom that I've gained through the years, and to try to enter into the practice of standing on that a little bit more firmly.
Absolutely.
For me. Something very specifically, and I know I mentioned this to you after rehearsal recently, something specifically that this is training me in is that when you and I have discussions before rehearsal about all these esoteric concepts, right? There's always an element of risk in really trying to embody these things. Because trying is the wrong word. Allowing is a better word. But there is a surrender to a certain degree. There's a commitment and a decision and a creation of a container, and then there's surrender. And that involves trust, that involves faith to a certain degree. And those two things are not things that have actually been easy for me in my life, right? Those are injuries I've sustained in the process of my life. And so it's very interesting. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's a training opportunity. And you know how we are. We love to train. It is a training opportunity with a dear like soul mate friend, to be in an environment together, to talk about these things together, and to seek to journey far.
Yeah.
Right?
Really go for it.
Really, really go for it sometimes. And I think you're so kind about all, and so respectful in the way that you see all of us for who we really are. And that, I think, causes you to be so respectful in the way that you give dancers feedback. Because my tendency is to muscle things, is to power through things, right? And it's hard sometimes for me to let go of that, because that requires trust and faith. And I've had repeated experiences of being in very, I will not stop short of saying things like psychologically abusive situations within dance, where that is what you had to do. Yeah. That is absolutely what you had to do, is you're just going to make this happen, and your body be damned. Also psychologically, you kind of had to do that because there was an armor you had to keep up. And so there was one way to engage with your art form, and that is just alpha, right? And so it becomes so habitual. So this has been an extraordinary opportunity to have that container where I can journey far and get in touch with faith and trust.
Yeah, because it's so much a part of what's already there in you. And I guess that's part of the Atma moves-ness in those rehearsals, where I start to ask and ask you to consider what it would look like to do it without that muscling, without, there's a couple things that I've shared in rehearsal. One of them is how when I go out in nature, I love to walk as quietly as possible so that I don't disturb a thing. Because a goal is to happen upon life as it's living without disturbing it and it changing and me missing out on something. And that idea was something I shared with you on what would it be like to dance this let's do it again, but without disturbing anything.
I love that prompt so much, because I did, when I am out in nature too, I endeavor to not make noise, right? Or to not, just to be, and there's a, sensitivity with the way you step and the way you move and everything. Like you don't want to disturb. anything that is there. You want to exist in harmony and in the flow with everything that's there. So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, obviously, of course, you know. But I remember so clearly the different physical sensation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how it changed everything.
It's funny. I think that's something very tangible in the choreography. Mm-hmm. Is a fight often dissolves your capacity mm-hmm. to actually do it. And it's not necessarily that the moves are hard, because I don't think that they're beyond any of the dancers. But when you meet those movements with a lot of force, mm-hmm. they sort of fall away from you. And when you meet them with more laser precision and the right force and the right subtlety, it just flows mm-hmm. and it works for you. And it's the fun for me as a choreographer. That I think is where I'm having the most fun.
Yeah.
Is to create movement that does that.
Yeah.
That you go on a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it's also sailing. Like, you do have to drive the boat, but you've got to listen to the wind, and you need the water.
Yeah.
You need all these components to work with you. And so you still have agency, but you don't necessarily get to just be on a speedboat and do what you want to do, because it might not actually work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. That's so wonderful, though. Yeah, totally. Later I'll ask you, like, how you do that.
I don't know.
I really do love that. You often encourage dancers to explore and embody the concept of an enlivened sensation in their skin as a spiritual sense organ during the rehearsal process. Where did that come from? And how do you feel it challenges traditional perceptions of the human body in dance?
Yeah, so a lot of the process of KOMOREBI, which is the methodology of our moves, is becoming aware in different ways and in enlivening your senses. And within pranic healing, within these schools of thought around consciousness, there's the understanding of spiritual sense organs like clairvoyance, clairaudience, which is hearing, clairsentience, which is being able to smell energy, and those things not particularly being embodied in physical organs. So you don't really need your ears to hear something spiritually. Sometimes it's like more of a ringing in your head, mm-hmm. or you smell it, it's like in you. And you know, there's some very real sensations that I think we can all connect to, like the sensation of decay, especially within a body, smelling something that smells a little sick or smells like it's decaying. Sometimes we are smelling more than what's physically there. And so the idea of it enlivening the spiritual sense organ, the whole body, as a sensation to become aware of what's around. And so the word for it is your etheric body. So the etheric would be your spiritual body, the energy that sort of pulses around you and throughout all of it. And its ability to hold awareness on an entire body scale. Mm. And then reading the room or reading the environment as a fabric. I call it the somatic fabric. And almost as if we were like spiders and there's something in our web that we can sense and we can feel. And we do that already as dancers. Like, I know where you are based on my spatial awareness. Mm. But the quality of your movement, the breath you have, the reverence, which is speaking for your release and your sensations, your quality, that's not necessarily what I'm reading in spatial awareness. Part of using the body as a spiritual sense organ also goes back to a prana walk. And prana is a Sanskrit word that means energy. And so a prana walk is an energy walk. And the idea is that your hands become sensitive to the energy in the plants. And so you would walk around and just feel how big the energy of a plant is or the quality of its body. So it's like taking spatial awareness and putting it in HD. And I think it challenges dance and the way we perceive our bodies, because it's just not something that we're really exercising. And I think that's the challenge. And it's, for me, what I think can take somebody who is already an accomplished dancer and like spread it all out into new areas of capacity.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you share your thoughts on the significance of the sun and its connection to the cycles of growth in both our personal lives and the larger cosmos, and how these ideas are reflected in the ballet?
So the sun plays a really large role in the entire ballet. It's used as a metaphor. It's used as an anchor. It's used as a friend. It's used as a direction. There's so much that I've used the sun for in this ballet. And I think part of it is because of the last few years and me exploring what it means to be a human on the planet, moving around the sun and shooting through the universe and really like allowing that to inform me beyond just it being information. Because that, I don't know, I don't really often get satisfied just in my mental body. I crave mental stimulation, and then I want it to go like 3 steps further and be something I embody.
Yeah.
And so the sun became a symbol. And to be really honest, the moments in my life that I had gone through in the past few years that shook me down to the foundations of trying to figure out who I am in the world, what I'll be able to do, struggling to exist. There were times where light just became the impression of hope, and that's coming from the sun. And my desire, my calling, and literally being called to go get lost somewhere in nature, be amongst the rhythm there, and watch the sun go across the sky, go down, know where it is. And it was this experience that I had that allowed me to find some relief and some hope, and also that sense of knowing. I know things, and I know that I'm okay. I can even just say, I know right now I'm healthy. Mm-hmm. I know right now I'm scared. I know right now that I don't know what to do. And it was a conversation I started having with everything around me. And you can connect that to whatever you'd like to connect it to. But for me, it was just everything, starting to release this question into the world, into the universe, and wait for the response. And sometimes the response was in a beam of light that would shine through a tree and let me discover the magic in the moment that led me to be able to make the next best step for myself, and the next one, and the next one, and just do the next thing that's in front of me. And all of a sudden it became the sun being a key element. And so it needed to be. The lighting had to portray where the sun is and where it's going and everything, and the level of reverence. The third one, which is something greater than you, is usually connected to that, the source of light, which is life.
Wow. Damn, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. Wow, that's beautiful.
I guess it's taking that and doing something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect of my curiosity is, what do I do with things?
Yeah.
We are inflicted by things throughout our life. And most of the time those become weights and baggage and rigidification.
Yeah.
But there have been too many times where I've had to take trash and turn it into something.
Yeah.
There have been too many times where I've been too poor to not become creative enough with what I have.
Yeah.
And so it also became around, I have pain. I have anger. I have profound sadness. And I don't know if that's worthy of showing up with, until one day I decided that it was, and started discovering what it meant to show up with my anger and not just be brash and angry at everything, but to allow myself to say, I have anger, and that's what I'm giving up. That's what I'm giving out. And not saying that's what I'm giving you or anybody, but that's what I have to offer. Because life isn't all just rainbows and joy. And we don't all just have rainbows and joy. We also have pain.
Yeah.
And that's worthy too. That's just as important to show up with and offer.
Yeah, no. It's been a number of years I've been in the practice of attempting to feel the rage, to show up with it, like you just said, to listen to it, to let it give me power when necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But I so frequently focus it back on myself because I'm unsure that I will be able to transmute it and not harm anyone. Yeah. That's a real process.
And I think that's also sometimes a relationship of knowing that you are not your anger. You are not your sadness. It can be profound and all-consuming, but it isn't who you are. And at some point, being able to step outside of it and come alongside it and see it that way is what gives it the reverence it deserves to exist, and for you to be able to step outside of it and then in your time continue on. This was going to be very emotional
all along.
interview. We knew it.
We
were ready for this. We haven't talked for weeks.
No, it's not true.
We're going to save everything. No, we didn't do that.
No, we didn't do that.
Okay. Well. Thank you so much for being here, Dorothy, and sharing some time with me. As always, it's a pleasure just to hang out with a dear friend and somebody I admire so much. Thank you. And thank you for sharing some time to share this moment with you and talk a little more deeply about things and share that with everybody.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you, as always. This is wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you for lending us your ears and your time. I hope that you are able to make the premiere of KOMOREBI here in Austin, Texas in September the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, and come and see Dorothy O'Shea Overbey take to the stage as one of the lead masters in the ballet. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.